And my life before Jesus looked like a life on my own power, because I didn't trust God enough to steer me through the storms of life. And it wasn't till recently that I needed to put my trust in God and put my faith to practice and experience God's hand on the wheel. So I had recently went through a split, and when I did, I found myself as a single mom and a bunch of financial insecurities of like $6,800 in credit card debt. So I'm on my own and going to church, and my biggest storm was, how am I going to get this financial burden off my shoulders? I remember Pastor Matt preaching about the only way you can test God is through finances, and I just kind of brushed it off because I wasn't ready to trust God with that. But it kept nagging at me, and one day I was like, fine, God, here's $20. See what you do with $20. The next day my boss calls my phone, and she is like, well, can you work all these days the next month? And it was like 15 days, and that was like an amazing financial breakthrough. My next paycheck I said, fine, let me increase it by like $10. Just toss it out there, put it in. And then my other job called, and they had more hours. So every week I kept increasing it until I found myself just tithing. I was like, I'm just going to give a tithe, see what God does. And I began to notice my bank account started getting pretty big. And I'm like, this is starting to look like I could pay off my credit card. So I started making these big chunks of payments, knowing that God has took me this far and he can take me the rest of the way. So between July and as of now, I am debt-free of $6,800 on my credit card just because I was tithing. And not only that, but my boss came to me and he was like, well, we're going to open up a full-time PTA position. Do you want it? And I'm like, heck yeah, I want that position. I've been waiting for full-time for 10 years. I want stability in my life. I want that financial peace in my life. So just by allowing God to show himself faithful, I gave him that opportunity, and it has been like a financial peace at mine now, that knowing God's got my back. So every time I get my paycheck, the first thing I do Friday morning is I send it in on the app, and I don't have to worry about it because God has it from there. So I give God the credit for my full-time job, for paying off my credit card debt, to tithing, because up until that point, I had income that was sporadic. Some days or some months I would work 3 days a week, 2 days a week, but it was never hardly ever consistent at 40 hours a week. It wasn't until I started tithing that God increased my hours to where God moved me to a full-time position. So it's pretty evident to me that when I'm obedient in what God has given me, then he can trust me with more to give. So New City has impacted my spiritual journey. He got Pete out in Edgerton, and him and his whole family just took me in. I'll be going into Edgerton, and they said, Sarah, come sit up in the second row. You're on my team. I'm just like, wow, I'm on a team. And I come here to Shawnee, and Pastor Matt's like, hey, Sarah. I'm like, oh, he knows my name. And it's so weird because I'm not used to that. I've been somewhat of a loner, but I'm at a point in my life where I need people in my life to get me to that next level of maturity. For those single moms out there, I would encourage you to walk out your faith in front of your child. That God is your provider, not anybody out there in the world except God, because he is the one that's going to provide for you financially, give you peace. And if your kid sees where you're drawing your strength from, then they're going to follow in your footsteps.